go. Welcome to the Team Downward podcast, where we have the goal to help young Christians to grow in their faith. In this episode, we'll be talking about if Christians cause violence. I'm Chris, and I'm here with Hayden. How's it going, Hayden? How's your week been?
This is going great. Chris, has been a very wild morning of recording. So I wake up,
Yeah.
right? I said, no, I said, so I wake up, right? And
Oh, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
getting
yeah.
ready to record. And I realized I don't have internet. So I tried like messing with my router, didn't do anything. So I realized what I had to do. I had to go get one of my parents' phones, which is like the only ones in our house that have hotspots, and use that. So my dad already left for work. So I had to go to my mom, and she was sleeping. All right. And so I had to open the door. But it creaked. Bro, that door needed WD-40. Okay. Listen, it was so bad. So I just had to send it. I opened it, walked in. Apparently she woke up. Sorry, mom. But yeah, I got the phone, and now we're able to record. But it's been wild. I genuinely thought we weren't gonna be able to record today, and I was a little scared. But yeah,
Would have been a tragedy.
no real, bro. Yeah.
So, sounds like you had a good week then.
Oh yeah, I can talk more about my week. Week's been good, just nothing new. School grind. Work has been very mid. It's really hard to find joy in my work. So yeah, if anyone out there, be praying for that, please, because it's been really hard to find joy in my work. SAT coming up. Yay. I love
It's
it.
that big
Woo.
book.
Yeah, oh man.
It's like a 5,000 page book.
Yeah, it's just huge, man. And
Wait, is
then
how many is it really? Is
I
that
don't
actually a good
I don't
estimate?
know. Probably it's maybe around there. But like thing is my book has like three SATs in it, and then it has two sections on the reading and the math section.
Hmm.
So yeah. And then there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's a dance coming up, which means that's gonna be chill. It's always lit, always fire. And then we're moving this weekend, hopefully. It'd be nice. Um, but yeah, that's my week. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, my week's been okay. I mean, it's mostly been procrastination for like 90% of the week, but it's been fine. Um, so yeah, that's what I've been busy doing. But yeah, you're right. We do have a dance coming up, which you know what that
Hmm.
means. We're gonna
Oh
have
yeah.
to do an episode on dating. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We're gonna have to do Reformation Day. It's Halloween. I mean, it's gonna be the spooky season, so we're doing Reformation Day.
Oh
We're not
yeah.
gonna. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Looking forward to
We're
that
not
one.
gonna do one on dating. Reformation Day drop. Not yet, no, not yet.
So yeah, we structured the little notes a little bit more to be of a conversation because that's what a podcast is. It's not a speech. It's not a formal speech. I
Yeah.
think I feel like if a lot of people were to imagine how you or I would give a speech, they would imagine it like this. But no, no, no. This is a conversation. This is just
Yeah.
two guys talking.
No,
So
real.
yeah, to work on that, we're gonna try to include more. So what do you think about this kind of moments?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Hopefully,
hopefully.
I might end up forgetting, and that would be awful.
We can put it somewhere in the notes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Chris, don't you have a joke for us? I'm putting this one on you,
Oh,
okay?
okay. Well, I have the pressure to say the joke today.
I'm throwing you under the bus today. You're getting all the hate mail this time.
All right, okay. So so I went to this
Okay.
conference, and then there were a few guys there, and as a joke, let's say I decided to pull a funny prank. Well, after leaving, I found out never bring the Book of Mormon to a theology debate.
Okay, that was actually not as bad as like the original version, but we spent a solid 17 minutes just sitting in the call thinking, bro.
Also, that never happened. I would never do that. Don't worry, I'm not that big of a heretic.
Oh yeah. We would never bring the Book of Mormon. Yeah. Gosh.
Unless we wanted to debate Mormons.
Yeah, never bring a Book of Mormon unless you're debating Mormons. Then
Yeah,
you bring the Greek too. That's at least
yeah.
what I've heard. You have to bring the Greek too. Anyway, now on to
Anyway,
our
how does that
episode.
tie into our subject
Yeah,
today?
that doesn't tie into our subject. But
Well, actually, it could. Do you want me to do a segue?
go ahead.
Okay, Book of Mormon. It has the word book in it. Okay, and a book was made from a printing press. All right, and a printing press works by smacking two things together, and smacking things is like violent, and that's how we get to violence. The question of violence: is Christianity a violent religion?
Dang, that was crazy. That was actually was kind of clean. That was cleaner than the other one where you like got into like Lightning McQueen and
Oh
like
yeah,
Tow
yeah, yeah,
Mater.
yeah. That was a cringe one.
That was very cringe. Anyway, But yeah, so as Chris said, question today is Christianity a violent religion? And so really by this, whenever we picked this topic, I was really thinking, you know, about how people believe that Christianity like picks and chooses. And one of those things is when it comes down to like violence. So I thought we'd go ahead and talk about that. So like
Yeah.
the main point that I've seen is when people point to the Crusades, and like, oh, it's just about Christians being violent, which is not true at all. The Crusades are very much depicted falsely in media, such as like movies and books, where the Christians are really depicted as these really violent people, and the Seljuk Turks are depicted as the more peaceful, just oh, we're just, taking land back. But no, it isn't. It is not. It is not what happened.
No,
So
no, no.
in reality, the Turks invaded most of the Byzantine Empire in the east, which is just like that's most of Europe already, okay? And some of Africa. And Emperor Alexius I sends out a message to Pope Urban II, and they're not on the best terms. They're both so Urban is more of the Roman Catholicism, and Emperor Alexius is I forget what's the other one called. Yeah, but needless to say, they're like on the two opposite sides of Christianity. They're both like on like the not the Protestant side. What's the other non-Protestant one besides
Oh, the
Catholic?
Orthodox,
Yes, yes, okay.
Eastern Orthodox.
Yes. So Emperor Alexius is Eastern Orthodox. Pope Urban II is Catholic. So they're not on the best terms. Yet Pope Urban decided to come to help. So he called all his citizens that are willing to fight, and they fought for reclaiming the Holy Land. Now, I got these facts from history.com if you want to go ahead and look at that. But if we take it like this, really it's the Crusades are not an extremely very violent action of just revenge, but it's also like, how do I put this into words? It's really monumental how these two different sides of Christianity came together to help kick the Turks back to their land because the Turks had taken more of their land. They had taken an obscene amount of land. We haven't seen this much land taken in a long time. And the
Yeah.
Crusades were made to retake and give back to the original people of the land, who it belonged to. So I hope that made sense. But the Crusades were not an unjustified attack of violence. They were more of a retaliation, and by retaliation I mean sort of like reaction. They're more of a reaction to the Turks taking a lot of land. So yeah, but violence is not the first answer. We will discuss that later. But I just want to put that out there as well. Now, nowadays, words are considered violence. We are, told not to be offensive. The Bible is an offensive book, though. I mean, if an atheist were to open up the Bible, or even in, I've been sitting through Romans with my youth group. Even if a Jew were to open up Romans, they would be, extremely offended by it. Even some of the Gentiles may have been offended by some of the things that Paul said. But the Bible is definitely a very offensive book. Galatians 1:2. Sorry, oh my gosh, can't read. 1:10. Galatians 1:10 says, "For I am now seeking the approval of a man. For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." I feel like we are
Mm.
called to mimic Paul's attitude, right? If we wanted to be servants of men, we wouldn't be servants of Christ. There's no in between there.
Right, right.
There are souls at stake. Sure, we're going to offend people, but when you think about it, right, we are called to plant that rock in the shoe so that they may consider thinking, why would he say that? Why does this like make a little bit of sense? Maybe after the initial like, oh, I'm so offended, they start and they think about it. So just always be aware of how you're talking to people because there's definitely an unbrotherly way of talking. Like we must always consider, are we being unbrotherly in how we're evangelizing? We can always be considered offensive by the people, because we're saying things that will go against what they believe, but never ever be considered unbrotherly because that is not what we're called to do in the Bible.
Right, right.
So from what I've seen, uh, it's been like that angry person on a microphone on a box. So that's what I meant. I didn't mean to stab at people who do it through a microphone on a box, but I've seen some very angry people yelling into that microphone on the box. Whenever I've gone inner city places. Um,
No,
but
yeah,
that is
they are
yeah,
out there.
yeah, that's for sure. But now I do not consider speech to be physically violent. Um, you know, but the tongue is definitely restless evil. James 3:8, which says, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. You know, tongue is
Yeah,
definitely a restless evil, but I do not consider it physically violent. It's more on a different way of violence. I don't think we should be yelling at the crowds in order to evangelize. That just makes us look more like protesters for Christ. I don't think we're really called to constantly be protesting Christ, or at least like in an angry manner. Uh, I don't think raising your voice and yelling is not really the best way to evangelize. I feel like that really just raises tensions, and now everyone's angry. We could do a whole episode on evangelism like this. So I just wanted to say that I don't really consider speech to be physically violent, though I consider the tongue to definitely be a restless evil. Now
indeed.
we have the main section of this. Should Christians be violent? You know, just think about that. Should we be violent? Hopefully, you didn't have to think about that long because the answer is no. We do not have to be. We should not be violent. 1 Timothy 3:3 says, Not a drunkard, not a violent, not a drunkard, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money." Context of that is he's really giving the qualifications for the overseers of the church. And this also applies to us. We should not be violent in our speech and in our actions. We should rather be gentle. The world is watching. They're gonna, wait for us to slip up, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's how Christians really are," and they're gonna start pointing at us like that, which they have done a lot. They will do that a lot. You can look anywhere, on social media, on the news, anything where Christians can be seen as these people who just pick and choose. Like if you go on the street and like talk to people about what they think about Christianity, one of the main things they're going to say is they pick and choose. I've seen this a lot recently on social media and stuff like that, where people are like, I was once a Christian, but then I really felt like they were just picking and choosing. Um, which is not true. We as Christians do not pick and choose. We read the context of the verses and stuff like that. And yeah, but when they say that, it's more of the Levitical law stuff, which is always yeah, you just really have to get the context of Levitical law for that. But that's a whole other episode as well. So, this episode has gone over, a few of the things the world. Hold up. Yeah, I already mentioned that. Okay. So, 2 Timothy 2:24. Like a turn there. Be nice. Good. It says, "And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but kind to everyone, able to teach, patiently enduring evil." So this tells us not to be quarrelsome. We shouldn't go out seeking violence or strife. Like the street preachers who are out there being angry. They're just trying to vent out their anger. We should not we should not be quarrelsome. We should not be constantly seeking a debate. All right, we should be seeking the souls to Christ. We should not be seeking the debate is not our calling. Matthew 26:52 is the next verse I'm going to read. I'm pretty sure this is the Great Commission, if I'm not correct. And then Jesus said, "Put your sword back in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword." We're not called to be warriors, but imitators. As Jesus said that, those who live by the sword die by the sword, which is another way of saying if you go out to war, do not be surprised when you die in that war, or when you seek violence, do not be surprised when you get violence in return. Those who live by the sword die by the sword. So it's a lifestyle. As for the imitators part, I'm going to turn to Ephesians 5:1-2. Gosh, my sword drill skill is not going very well right now. Ephesians
Oh,
5:1-2, which says, "Therefore, be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God." Imitate him well. For like I said, the world is watching. I'm going to say this a lot in every podcast episode because can't stress it out enough. Now, back on the Bible verse jumping train, we're going to jump to 1 Peter 3:9. 1 Peter 3:9, which says,
we had some technical difficulties. The computer my computer crashed. We had some Wi-Fi issues, and let's just say we got a brief time of everything's working.
Dude, my Wi-Fi is actually trolling me, bro. We gotta speed run this now, bro. All right. I'm just gonna go ahead and get on to the next verse. So just to, you know, sorry, I'll go ahead and just say the next verse. Next verse is First Peter 3:9, which says, "Do not repay evil for evil or reviling for rebellion, but on the contrary, bless, for this you were called, that you may obtain a blessing." And now this verse really just puts it out plain and simple, you know? Do not repay evil for evil, right? Repay evil for a blessing. And a good way to think about it is that we have sinned and been evil against God, right? But God has given us a blessing that is his son, right? God has God could just send us all to hell. He really could because we'd all deserve it. But instead he gave us a blessing that we did not deserve. And so in that same manner, we should not repay the evil of others with evil. Rather, mimic our creator and repay them with a blessing, which is very hard to do, but we must do it. We're called to not seek vengeance, but love. All right, now going to the next verse because we're going to be jumping around verses a lot. If I could get there, be nice. Oh my gosh. Okay, there we go. Proverbs 31, 8 through 9. I missed it. There we go. Proverbs 31, 8 through 9, which says, "Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy." So this verse is maybe a little bit different from the other verses in this section, but I really thought it really added here because it's a big point. We're called to also defend the weak. Now, we're not to defend the weak with violence, right? We're not to, use the weak as an excuse to go cause violence, right? Grr. But instead, we're called to defend those people, to speak up for them, to stand up for them, right? But we're not called to use them as an excuse for violence. So that's a little misconception, but that is not what we're called to do. All right.
Mhm.
So we as Christians are not to seek or do violence, but we are to pursue peace. Whilst pursuing peace, we are to spread the word to all the nations in an honorable manner so that we may not be convicted. And by that honorable manner, we're going to go to First Peter 2:12. If I could get there. I'm jumping around a lot today. There we go. First Peter 2:12, which says, "Keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation." So, this verse basically, just to summarize it, is that if people look in on us, if the world looks in on us as Christians and only sees us doing good and following our Creator, what are they gonna point out? Like it's gonna reveal their evil. There's many other verses that like talk about, so they have no, point of argument against you to kind of voice that. And these deeds not only glorify God, but they make what's it called? They make the unbeliever notice something. Okay, wait. He kind of plants the rock, right? That's just one thing. We are all also called to defend and care for those who cannot help themselves. Like I said, as God cared for us when we could not help ourselves. I mentioned a point earlier about violence not being the first option, and I said I'd talk about it later. And this is that time when I'm going to talk about it. So we're going to talk about it. Like I said, violence is not the first answer. We can also talk it out. We should defend ourselves from evil men, right? But we shouldn't seek vengeance or have hatred for their actions. We shouldn't, like if someone were to break into your house and like threaten your family, you're going to defend your family, right? That is a just thing to do. But you can also, like, you're also not to choose vengeance against that person. Say they get locked up. You're not to go and choose vengeance against them. Oh, they should die for breaking into my house and threatening my family.
You're not
No,
Batman.
yeah, you do not be vengeance. um, oh man, I could rant about that one scene. But no, we're not called to seek vengeance. Rather, we're called to forgive them. To maybe go to that jail and meet with them and talk with them, pray for them. Pray for that they will change. And then there's other circumstances where maybe you're in a debate, like a harsh debate, and if David's getting a little flared up, you can go, hey, 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 listen, why don't we talk about this in a little different manner? Always avoid violence. Do not be quarrelsome, right? We're not called to be quarrelsome and avoid violence. And there's many ways to avoid violence. So, to kind of further my notes, this has taken so long to finally finish, and I'm so happy I got to get through here. But Christians do not cause violence, rather the opposite. Christians cause life through through the spreading of the gospel and helping those in need. Now, yeah, if you want to get some more points on Christians helping those in need, do some research on what Christians have done for the week. I think Chris is going to talk about that, so I'll just go ahead and say, Chris, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I have a question for anyone who believes that Christianity is a violent religion. Who was it who's been behind most of the charities throughout history? One of the major givers of charity. Who was it that has many hospitals named after it? Who was it who started our historic universities in America? Who was it who was behind the scientific revolution? Nicholas Copernicus, Galileo, Kepler, Isaac Newton, Pascal, Boyle were all Christians. The fact is, despite the many attempts that people have to label Christianity as a violent, war-going religion, history has proved quite the opposite. Because the thing about Christianity is we do a lot of good things. Good. I don't believe anyone is good, but I do believe we do things that are better than others. So we do these things, and a lot of it goes unnoticed by the secular world because it doesn't benefit them. And unless it benefits them directly, it's only going to make Christianity look good. However, when we do the bad things, that's when they have the gotcha. They have that checkmate moment. Like when Hayden mentioned the Crusades, for example, many people look to the Crusades and they're like, "Oh, look at these horrible things that the Christians did. They went and massacred all these people for no reason because they liked violence." When in reality, the Muslims, the Islamic lands had conquered a huge amount of land. They ended up with more than the Roman Empire did. The Islamic territories were kept growing. They took over a bunch of Christian states and Christian areas. They grew over Europe, and they had this tax. They had this safety tax that you had to pay if you wanted to survive as a Christian. And what was happening is the as they during that time before the Crusades, they killed over 10 million people. They killed over an estimated 10 million people, and the Christians, from as Hayden mentioned, if you remember, both the Orthodox and Catholic, they both worked together, which was across many different countries to fight back against the Muslim lands, the Muslim attackers who came to take land as conquerors. So that's just one of the examples. And of course, that's not to say that Christianity is perfect in how it's been about this. There have been times where Christian nations have gone to war against each other. It's not to say that Christianity means that there's no war, but it does generally have a negative connotation with violence. Christianity has seen decreases in violence compared to increases with other religions such as Islam. And another thing is, a lot of people will look to other regimes and to say, well, how do you know these weren't caused by Christianity, like Nazis, the Holocaust? How do we know that wasn't didn't Hitler have a lot of Christian ideas? Why did he take these Christian symbols? The thing is, Hitler himself was an agnostic. He he grew up as an agnostic. He saw the symbols of Christianity as something that he could pervert and twist rather than allowing true Christianity. And he seemed to allow Christianity until it realized that it was anti-violent. As whenever he saw that it was fighting for peace, so many churches were stopped. Just another point that people like to attack about violence is slaves. Some people will say that Ephesians, there's a specific verse in Ephesians that people can claim that justifies slavery. And he said that some people will say that there were slaves in the Bible. So let me turn to Ephesians 6:5 to see what they were trying to say. Ephesians 6:5 says this: Bondservants, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, with a sincere heart as you would Christ, not by way of eye servants, by the way of eye service as people pleasers, but as bondservants to Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, rendering service with a good will as to the Lord and not to man, knowing that whatever anyone does, this he will receive back from the Lord, whether he is bondservant or free. And now here we don't have the writer of Ephesians saying, see, these slaves are need to be freed. Instead, he tells them to obey. And of course, people do say, well, this could be, what about your job? What about, this is referring to a boss and an employer, but that was different because you are not indebted to a boss the same way a servant is to the master. So here's the thing: during this time period, uh, Christianity was brand new. So remember, the Christians were new. They had a lot of false accusations going on, which is what a lot of the early apologists fought for. A lot of the early apologists were not arguing for God, not arguing for the existence of God through logical arguments. Rather, the need for the apologists then was refuting false claims against Christianity, saying the very same thing that people are saying today, that Christianity is a violent religion. So during this time, if Paul had gone and said, let's free all the slaves right now, let's start an uprising, then that would have been a great excuse for people to argue that Christianity is a violent religion. There would be a time and a place for that, but doing that right now would be very dangerous, and it could cause more damage than good. So there is a place for it. It was to keep peace in order. It's not that slaves are justified. It's that they weren't specifically announced as something you shouldn't have in that moment for the particular context. Anyway, enough ranting about that. One more subject: self-defense. Self-defense, basically simple. You got to defend your own home because, let's say someone breaks into your house. What are you gonna do? You're gonna say, "Well, I'm not gonna cause violence, so I'm just gonna stay here." No, because what you're doing is you're allowing that person to go and murder someone else. So you allowed him to take your own life and to take those of people who are around you, the people in your home. It's that simple. The same reason we do self-defense. Um, so self-defense is justified. It's not the outright murder. It's a necessary killing, and it should be used with much caution. Don't go around shooting people. Another thing is animals. Should we be violent towards animals? I think we should have some ethics towards animals. We shouldn't uh, hurt an animal for no reason. If we have good reasoning to, if we need food, for example, then that is a good reason to kill an animal and eat it to provide for your family. However, unjustly harming animals, animal abuse for no reason, that would be a form of violence which is not justified. One more thing, which is a big one: the Old Testament. We love the Old Testament, but one thing is that a lot of people are uncomfortable with it. Have you ever heard the question? The Old Testament has a
Hmm.
bunch of violence inside of it. I've heard it from
Yeah.
even Christians. I've heard say this. Many Christians who I've known, they
Hmm.
wonder
Yeah.
why why is there so much violence in the Old Testament? Why is God telling the Israelites to go and kill these people? Skeptics could even use this as an excuse for labeling Christians as allowing genocide, which is just false. Let's go into why. We humans, as humans, we deserve death. For the wages of sin is death. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Therefore, we are all worthy of dying. Here's what's going on in the little part of your mind that says, "Hold up, something's not right." That part of your brain is thinking, so we all deserve to live. We all deserve a second chance because that's what our society is teaching us. So therefore, anyone who killed is killed unjustly unless they're acting in self-defense. Uh, so why would God go and kill these people? Well, the truth is because these people deserved it. They deserved worse than just death. They deserved hell. And if God was acting out to, he was making these acts as a part of his grand plan. Going out and destroying a nation, that was part of his plan. These people were sinning such greatly against him that he had the right to end their lives. He has the right to end our lives here in this podcast right now, if he wished to, and he would be just for doing so. The Israelites were the tool that he used. Now, if the Israelites went and they started murdering someone for no reason, then God didn't command it. That would have been a different story. But the thing is, when the Israelites go and they are going to destroy this town, they do so because God commanded them to. And if you've read through Kings, the book of Kings, the same any Old Testament book that has a lot of wars, you'll find out that when they disobey, things go pretty bad. So yeah, this is all to say that I don't believe Christianity is as a violent religion. There have been instances of Christians being associated with violence, but then again, no one can truly say that Christianity is the most violent religion. After all, what was his name? Dawkins said that he would be a cultural Christian despite being an atheist because of how Christianity affects the culture. Look at the Puritans, for example. The Puritans, they had a really great society. Um, they had lower crime rates and other aspects like that because of because of how Christianized their area was. Christianity has been so beneficial to history, to human history, even from a secular standpoint, that if you were to look at it and say, "Oh, this causes violence," what you're doing is you're looking at an iceberg, for example. You were to say, let's say you're looking at an iceberg. You're essentially doing that, looking at the very top and saying, "Yeah, that top part, that is all that is. That's all that exists. Only what you see on the very outside." Anyone who digs a little bit deeper, just looks a little bit past that, will see that that is completely false. That's how it is. Anywhere hidden, uh, that's pretty much it. I would sum up the episode, but then I just remembered that's your job. I was yapping a bit. It's my bad.
Nah, you're good. Do I sound good by the way? Or
Whoa,
no? No.
whoa.
Am I glitching?
Yeah, you just glitched out right as you said that.
Oh, does it sound good right now or no?
Yeah, you sound good. You sound good.
Okay, okay, okay. Before I start glitching,
Oh, you're glitching
thank you for
again.
listening to this far. This
Okay, Hayden is glitching. So he's unable to close out the episode, so I'll have to close it out. All right, thank you for watching this far. Thank you for to the one person who's listening. Be sure to share the show if you found it is interesting. Or you could take the knowledge out of this and share it to other people yourself. To conclude, we said that Christianity isn't a violent religion, despite the allegations, as you would say. Crusades were depicted falsely, as Hayden said. Uh, and overall, throughout history, Christians have been more non-violent than violent. So yeah, that's pretty much it to sum it up. Those are my final thoughts. You could listen if you want to listen to a good podcast, try Solacast. Great podcast like us, but 10 times better, probably 100 times. Listen to Hearts for the Lost. They're good ministry. Heartsforthelost.com. There's TTA merch and links in the description for pretty much everything. All right.
do I sound good? Do I sound good?
Yeah, you sound good. Do it. Hurry.
Okay, okay, okay. Ready. Shield of faith.
Shields up.
Shields up,
All right.
dude. I'm gonna start glitching out like next sentence. I bet you.
Wow, you're kind of right. All right, let's do the funny bit.
Yeah.
Your
bit.
audio quality sounds so
Funny
good right now.
bit. Really? Really?
Um,
Like for real, bro?
it sounds like, let's just say it sounds like unlike anything anyone's ever seen
Why?
before.
Nah, bro, I'm a death trooper. What are you talking about?
Oh, you know what you sound like?
Uh,
You sound like
but
what's it called? Have you seen? Okay, have you seen that one movie?